If the power grid collapsed tonight, how long would you and your family survive before freezing? This isn't a drill or a movie plot, it's a reality check. The electrical grid is fragile. Winter blackouts are becoming a standard feature of the news cycle. And energy shortages are no longer a distant threat, they're here. Let's be blunt, most people are completely unprepared. They have no backup plan for heat. That single critical oversight is a fatal mistake when the temperature drops. Your reliance on a system you don't control is a liability that could cost you everything. We've analyzed recent blackout data, consulted with seasoned preppers, and studied real-world survival scenarios. The conclusion is unavoidable. Blackouts are getting longer and energy is becoming a luxury. In a true grid-down event, heat is the line between life and death. This video provides 9 proven off-grid heating sources. These aren't theories, they are methods people have used to survive wars, economic collapse, and total power failures. No electricity is required for any of them. Pay attention, because some of these essential items are already vanishing from store shelves. Read this list carefully and start stockpiling now. 1. The timeless heater. Mastering the wood-burning stove. When the grid fails, and it will, your smart thermostat becomes a useless piece of plastic on the wall. The hum of the furnace will be a distant memory. In that deafening silence, the only thing that matters is a heat source that doesn't rely on a fragile infrastructure. Enter the wood-burning stove, the undisputed champion of off-grid survival. This isn't a nostalgic throwback, it's a brutally effective tool that has kept families alive through wars, depressions, and total societal collapse. It operates on a simple, unbreakable principle. Wood goes in, life-sustaining heat comes out. There are no wires to fray, no software to crash, and no reliance on a power company that sees you as nothing more than an account number. As long as you have a supply of wood, you have heat, light, and a means to cook. Let's be blunt, most people are dangerously ignorant about what real preparedness entails. They think a few extra blankets and some canned soup will see them through. They are wrong. A prolonged winter blackout is a lethal event. The consistent, radiant warmth from a wood stove is the barrier between surviving and becoming a statistic. Modern wood stoves are not the smoke-belching metal boxes of the past. Advanced engineering has made them incredibly efficient. They are designed to burn hotter and cleaner, extracting every possible bit of energy from each log. This means a smaller wood pile can provide hours, even days of uninterrupted warmth. In a long-term crisis where every resource is precious, that efficiency is a non-negotiable advantage. It means less time spent cutting and hauling wood in freezing conditions and more time focused on other survival priorities. The demand for this old technology is a quiet indicator of growing public anxiety. After every major storm or report of grid instability, sales of wood stoves and their components spike. People are waking up to the reality that self-reliance is the only true security. This has led to noticeable shortages. Finding a stove, let alone the necessary chimney pipes, fire bricks, and high-temperature gaskets, is becoming a challenge. The supply chain is not prepared for a sudden, widespread panic. When the crisis hits, the shelves will be bare. You cannot wait for the storm to be on the horizon. You must prepare while the sun is still shining. There is also a profound psychological benefit that the unprepared fail to consider. A fire is more than just heat. It is a primal source of comfort, light, and hope. The glow of a fire and the crackle of burning wood can restore morale and provide a sense of control when the world outside has descended into chaos. In a world obsessed with digital solutions, the smartest move is to invest in the analog reliability of a simple iron box and a pile of wood. 2. Portable powerhouse. The strategic use of propane heaters. For the vast majority of people living in apartments, condos, or rental homes, installing a wood stove is an impossibility. This is where the indoor-safe propane heater becomes the most practical and effective tool for emergency heat. Let's get straight to the point. When the power goes out, your central heating is dead. Your electric space heaters are useless plastic bricks. Propane, however, doesn't care about the state of the electrical grid. It delivers instant, powerful heat with the turn of a knob. This is not a suggestion. It's a critical component of any realistic urban or suburban survival plan. The recent surge in their popularity following major winter blackouts is a clear signal. People learned the hard way that depending on a centralized utility is a fool's game. The hesitation many have towards using propane indoors is based on outdated fears. Modern indoor safe heaters are engineered with multiple layers of protection that make them remarkably safe when used correctly. They are equipped with oxygen depletion sensors, ODS, that automatically shut the unit off if oxygen levels in the room drop to an unsafe point. They also feature tip-over switches that extinguish the flame instantly if the heater is knocked over. These are not the hazardous, unvented heaters of generations past. They are specifically designed for emergency indoor use. Ignoring this technology because of misplaced anxiety is a grave error that could have fatal consequences when temperatures plummet. A small investment in a quality heater provides an enormous return in security and peace of mind. The true strategic advantage of propane lies in its fuel. Unlike gasoline, which degrades over time, or diesel, which can gel in the cold, propane is incredibly stable. It can be stored for decades in its tank without any loss of potency. A few standard 20-pound tanks, the same kind used for gas grills, can provide days or even weeks of targeted heat depending on the heater's setting and how you manage your space. This is where prepper logic comes into play. You don't heat the whole house, you close off a single room, insulate it as best you can, and use the portable heater to create a warm, livable space. This method maximizes fuel efficiency and extends your survival window. But be warned, this knowledge is becoming mainstream. Every time a storm is forecasted or the news mentions grid stress, heaters and propane tanks disappear from shelves. The time to acquire them is now, not when you're competing with a panicked crowd in a cold, dark hardware store. The overlooked workhorse. Rediscovering the kerosene heater. Kerosene heaters occupy a strange place in the modern mind. They're often dismissed as relics, something from a grandparent's drafty farmhouse, made obsolete by central heating. This dismissal is a dangerous miscalculation. While you are forgetting about kerosene, millions of people around the world never stopped using it as their primary source of heat. In regions with unstable power grids and brutal winters, kerosene isn't a backup plan. It's a daily necessity. That fact alone should force you to reconsider its value. When a true grid-down scenario unfolds, the technologies that have been proven to work in the harshest conditions will become the most valuable assets, and kerosene is at the top of that list. The raw heating power of kerosene is its most compelling feature. A single kerosene heater can generate a tremendous amount of BTUs, capable of warming a large, poorly insulated space far more effectively than many other portable options. They operate on a simple wick system, requiring no electricity and having no complex parts to fail. You light it, adjust the flame, and it produces a steady, powerful heat for hours on end. In a crisis, simplicity equals reliability. The systems that survive are the ones that are easy to operate and maintain under stress. Furthermore, kerosene boasts excellent fuel density. A 5-gallon can of K1 kerosene contains a massive amount of potential energy and goes a surprisingly long way. Unlike propane, it doesn't require high-pressure tanks for storage, making it easier to stockpile in quantity. When stored correctly in a sealed, opaque container, kerosene remains viable for years. The biggest mistake people make is assuming they can just buy kerosene when they need it. The availability of kerosene has quietly dwindled over the years. Far fewer gas stations carry it, and those that do often only have it seasonally. When the first cold snap hits, this limited supply is depleted almost instantly. Prices then climb, and what was once an affordable fuel becomes a precious commodity. By the time a real emergency is declared, it will be virtually impossible to find. Modern kerosene heaters have also evolved. They incorporate safety features like automatic shutoffs and protective cages to prevent accidental burns. The stigma surrounding them is largely undeserved and rooted in ignorance of current designs. Used with proper ventilation, they are a dependable and powerful heat source. In the calculus of survival, overlooking the humble kerosene heater is a luxury you cannot afford. It's time to see it for what it is: an essential tool for weathering the storm. 4. The engineering marvel. Why you need a rocket mass heater. If you are looking for efficiency that borders on the obsessive, the rocket mass heater is the undisputed king. It doesn't look like your standard cast iron stove. It looks strange, often homemade, and frankly a bit ugly. But in a survival scenario, aesthetics are irrelevant. Performance is everything. While traditional wood stoves lose a significant amount of heat up the chimney, a rocket mass heater is designed to capture nearly every BTU produced. It burns small amounts of wood at incredibly high temperatures in a specialized combustion chamber. The heat then travels horizontally through a large thermal mass, usually a bench made of cob stone or brick, before exiting. This mass acts like a thermal battery, absorbing the intense heat and slowly radiating it back into the room for hours, or even days after the fire has gone out. Let's be blunt about the logistics of a long-term blackout. Fuel scarcity is your biggest enemy. In a week-long outage, your woodpile will shrink faster than you can imagine. Your neighbors will be burning their furniture while you are comfortably warm using nothing but twigs and scrap lumber. That is the power of the rocket mass heater. It thrives on waste wood, fallen branches, construction scraps, pallet wood. You don't need perfectly seasoned oak logs to run this machine. This extreme efficiency changes the math of survival. Instead of spending your days exhausted from chopping and hauling heavy timber, you can gather a handful of sticks and heat your home for the night. This isn't just a heater. It is a force multiplier for your energy and time. The control it offers is another critical advantage. Traditional stoves require constant tending. If you fall asleep, the fire dies and the house freezes. With a rocket mass heater, you fire it hard and fast for a couple of hours. The mass absorbs that energy. You can let the fire go out and still wake up to a warm house the next morning, because that thermal battery is still discharging heat. It turns your home into a stable, temperature-controlled environment, rather than a roller coaster of freezing and sweating. However, this is not a solution you can buy off a shelf at Home Depot 5 minutes before a blizzard. It requires construction. It requires space. It is a permanent installation. For renters or apartment dwellers, this is a non-starter. But for homeowners, homesteaders, or anyone with a bug-out location, ignoring this technology is a failure of imagination. It is the ultimate insurance policy against fuel shortages. 5. The urban survivor's secret: alcohol and ethanol heating. For the millions of people trapped in concrete jungles, apartments, condos, and townhomes, burning wood or installing massive propane tanks isn't just difficult, it's illegal. When the power cuts out in the city, you are often left with zero options. This is where alcohol and ethanol heaters come into play. They are the unsung heroes of urban survival, largely ignored by the mainstream, but stockpiled by those who know better. These devices are compact, portable, and require absolutely no electricity. Unlike propane, which requires heavy metal tanks, ethanol fuel comes in plastic bottles that are easy to store, easy to hide, and easy to transport. The genius of alcohol heaters lies in their simplicity and safety profile for indoor use. Denatured alcohol and bioethanol burn incredibly clean. They don't produce the heavy smoke, soot, or dangerous levels of carbon monoxide associated with other fuels, though ventilation is always mandatory. This makes them uniquely suited for small enclosed spaces where other heaters would be lethal. You aren't going to heat a 3,000 square foot mansion with one of these. That's not the point. The goal is microclimates. You set one up in a small bedroom, close the door, and create a survivable zone. You heat the person, not the house. This is a critical mental shift you must make. In a blackout, trying to maintain your normal standard of living is a recipe for failure. Adapting to a smaller footprint is how you survive. Supply chains are fragile. We saw this in 2020, and we see it every time a hurricane hits. Propane tanks vanish instantly. But go to a hardware store or a marine supply shop, and you will often find gallons of denatured alcohol sitting untouched on the shelves, because the average person doesn't know it's a fuel source. It is shelf-stable, doesn't degrade like gasoline, and won't freeze in your garage. Furthermore, these heaters are often non-pressurized, meaning there is no risk of explosion if a seal fails. They are essentially spill-proof lamps that put out heat. They are quiet, odorless, and discreet. In a situation where you don't want to draw attention to yourself, where smoke from a chimney signals to desperate neighbors that you have resources, an alcohol heater is the ultimate stealth survival tool. Stockpile the fuel now, because once the secret gets out, it will be gone. 6. The last resort: maximizing candle and clay pot radiators. When you suggest heating a room with candles, people laugh. They think it's a Pinterest craft project, not a survival strategy. Let them laugh while they freeze. The candle and clay pot heater, often called a terracotta heater, is a legitimate, scientifically sound method for generating localized radiant heat when you have absolutely nothing else. It is the Hail Mary of heating solutions. But in a desperate situation, a Hail Mary is better than hypothermia. The concept is brutally simple. You place candles under an inverted clay pot. The flame heats the air inside the pot, which then heats the clay. The clay absorbs that thermal energy and radiates it outward as infrared heat. Instead of the heat from the candle rising straight to the ceiling and vanishing, the pot traps it and forces it to radiate horizontally, warming your hands and body. This is not a replacement for a furnace. If you think this will keep your living room at 72 degrees during a blizzard, you are delusional. This is about survival at the margins. It raises the temperature of a small enclosed space, like a tent set up inside your living room or a small bathroom, just enough to keep you alive. It keeps your fingers from going numb. It provides a focal point of warmth that can boost morale when the darkness feels overwhelming. The psychological impact of a contained flame and a source of radiant heat cannot be overstated. It gives you a task, a focus, and a physical sensation of warmth that fights off the mental despair that sets in during prolonged emergencies. The real value here is accessibility. You probably have the components in your house right now. A few terracotta pots from the garden, a bolt or two for spacing, and some tea lights or emergency candles. You don't need a special delivery. You don't need a technician. It is low-tech, low-cost, and completely off-grid. However, do not be an idiot. This involves an open flame. The fire risk is real if you are careless. You need a stable, non-flammable base. A baking sheet or ceramic tile works well. You need to ensure the candles have enough oxygen so they don't soot up the pot or create carbon monoxide. But used intelligently, this method allows you to scavenge heat from the smallest of sources. When the gas stations are closed, the propane is gone, and the wood is wet, a box of cheap tea lights and a flower pot might be the only thing standing between you and the bitter cold. Don't underestimate it. Master it. 7. The heavy hitter. Coal heating for extreme endurance. Let's drop the aesthetics argument immediately. Coal is dirty. It smells. It's heavy. It doesn't look pretty on Instagram. But when the temperature hits 20°, when the power lines are down for the third week straight, you won't care about aesthetics. You will care about staying alive. Coal is the heavy artillery of off-grid heating. While wood stoves are fantastic, they demand constant attention, feeding, stoking, and chopping. Coal operates on a different level of endurance. It burns hotter, longer, and more consistently than almost any other solid fuel available to civilians. This is why it powered the Industrial Revolution and heated homes across the world for over a century. The primary advantage of coal in a survival scenario is its incredible energy density. A bucket of anthracite coal contains significantly more BTUs than a bucket of hardwood. This density translates directly into burn time. A properly banked coal fire can run for 12, 18, or even 24 hours without refueling. Think about what that means in a crisis. It means you sleep through the night without waking up shivering at 3:00 a.m. to feed the stove. It means you spend less energy hauling fuel and more energy focusing on other survival tasks, like securing water or food. In a situation where calorie conservation is critical, coal is the superior choice. Storage is another area where coal shines. Unlike wood, which needs to be seasoned, stacked, and kept dry, and can rot or attract termites, coal is basically a rock. You can dump it in a bin, a shed, or even a pile in the backyard covered with a tarp, and it will be ready to burn in 10 years. This long-term stability makes it an ideal deep storage item for preppers. You can buy it now, forget about it, and know it will be there when the grid collapses. However, the supply chain for coal is already fragile. It's becoming a specialty item. Most hardware stores don't stock it, and the few suppliers that do often run out quickly when winter panic sets in. If you wait until the news reports a blackout to buy coal, you have already lost. You need a dedicated coal stove or a multi-fuel stove rated for coal. Burning coal in a wood-only stove can melt the grates and destroy the unit due to the intense heat. Carbon monoxide is also a serious threat with coal. Proper venting and CO detectors are non-negotiable, but if you have the setup, coal offers a level of thermal security that wood simply cannot match. It is the ugly, reliable brute force solution to freezing to death. 8. Microclimate survival. High-tech heated gear and sleeping systems. Stop trying to heat the whole house. That is a luxury mindset that will get you killed when resources are scarce. In a true grid-down emergency, your goal isn't to keep your living room at a cozy 72 degrees, it's to keep your core body temperature high enough to prevent hypothermia. The most efficient way to do this is to heat the body directly, not the air around it. This is where modern heated clothing and advanced sleeping systems change the game. We aren't talking about the bulky, ineffective gear of the past. We are talking about high-efficiency, battery-operated or chemically activated thermal layers that act as a personal life support system. Consider the math of energy consumption. Heating a 200-square-foot room requires a massive amount of fuel, whether that's propane, wood, or kerosene. Heating the 2 square feet of space immediately surrounding your torso requires a fraction of that energy. A high-quality heated vest or jacket powered by a rechargeable power bank, which you can charge via solar panels, can keep your vital organs warm for hours on a minimal charge. This allows you to function in a freezing house, cooking, cleaning, maintaining security, without burning through your precious stockpile of heating fuel. It essentially extends your fuel supply by days or weeks, because you aren't burning logs just to sit on the couch. At night, the strategy shifts to sleeping systems. Most people have cheap slumber party sleeping bags that are useless below 50 degrees. You need legitimate, 0-degree or sub-zero rated mummy bags. These systems work by trapping your body heat and reflecting it back to you. Combine this with a thermal bevy sack or a Mylar emergency blanket liner, and you create a super-insulated micro-environment. You could be sleeping in a room that is 10 degrees, but inside your system, it's a toasty 80 degrees. This approach also has a massive psychological component. Being constantly cold is demoralizing. It drains your mental energy, makes you irritable, and leads to poor decision-making, which is fatal in a crisis. Being able to slip into a warm jacket or crawl into a warm bag resets your morale. It gives you a safe haven. The Smart Prepper stockpiles rechargeable hand warmers, heated socks, and base layers now. They understand that the ultimate backup heater is the one you wear. When the fuel runs out and the wood is wet, your gear is the last line of defense. Don't rely on the room. Rely on your gear. 9. The invisible shield. Harnessing thermal mass and passive heat. The best heat is the heat you don't have to work for. While everyone else is scrambling to find propane or chop wood, the smartest survivors are leveraging physics. Thermal mass and passive heat retention are ancient strategies that require zero fuel and zero electricity. They rely on the physical properties of materials to store and release energy. If you ignore this, you are literally letting survival slip through your fingers or through your drafty windows. Thermal mass refers to dense materials like stone, concrete, brick, or water containers that absorb heat when the ambient temperature is high during the day or when a stove is running, and release it slowly when the temperature drops. Think of it as a heat battery. In a blackout, you can create makeshift thermal mass. Stacking jugs of water near a sunny window or around your wood stove allows them to absorb thermal energy. When the sun goes down or the fire dies, those jugs radiate heat back into the room for hours. It flattens the temperature curve, preventing the dangerous plunge into freezing conditions at night. But generating heat is pointless if you can't keep it. Most modern homes are sieves. They leak heat like a bucket with holes. Passive heat retention is about sealing the envelope. You need to identify every draft and seal it immediately. Hang heavy blankets or sleeping bags over windows and doors. This creates a dead air space that acts as insulation. If you have a tent, set it up inside your living room. The tent captures your body heat and creates a smaller, easier to warm volume of air. Reflective technology is another underutilized passive tool. Mylar blankets taped to the wall behind a candle or lantern will bounce that radiant heat back into the room instead of letting the drywall absorb it. It sounds primitive, but in a survival situation, every single degree matters. The goal is to create a warm room, one specific area of the house where you concentrate all your insulation, thermal mass, and family members. You abandon the rest of the house to the cold. This strategy requires a shift in thinking. You aren't powering a home. You are managing an ecosystem. You are harvesting solar gain during the day by opening south-facing curtains and trapping it at night by closing them. You are using the thermal mass of your own home to fight the cold. It requires discipline and preparation, but it is the only strategy that works indefinitely. Fuel runs out, batteries die. Physics remains constant. If you master thermal mass and insulation, you gain a massive advantage over those who are solely dependent on consumables. Bonus point 10, the forgotten fuel, unlocking the power of oil heaters. Most people hear oil heater and picture a leaky, smelly antique from a bygone era. They dismiss it as outdated and irrelevant. This is a critical error in judgment. While they may lack the rustic charm of a wood stove or the sleek portability of a modern propane unit, Oil heaters are brutally effective workhorses. They are a time-tested solution for generating immense, long-lasting heat without any reliance on the electrical grid. In a survival situation, effectiveness trumps aesthetics every single time. The fact that these heaters have been phased out of the popular consciousness is precisely what makes them a strategic asset for the prepared individual. While the panicked masses are fighting over the last propane tank, you can be sitting comfortably warm. The core strength of an oil heater lies in the energy density of its fuel. Kerosene is a form of heating oil, but so are diesel and other Run 1 and 2 fuel oils. These fuels pack a massive thermal punch. A single gallon can produce an incredible amount of heat for an extended period, far surpassing what you might get from an equivalent volume of alcohol or even some solid fuels. This translates directly to endurance. A well-maintained oil heater can run for hours on a single fill, providing consistent, powerful warmth that can heat a significant area. This isn't about creating a tiny warm spot in a freezing room. This is about reclaiming a livable space from the cold. It's the difference between merely surviving and maintaining a functional, sane environment during a prolonged crisis. Let's be blunt. Fuel storage is a logistical challenge that derails most amateur preppers. This is where oil-based fuels offer a distinct advantage. Stored correctly in proper containers, fuel oil and diesel can last for years. Unlike gasoline, which degrades quickly, these heavier fuels are far more stable. A few 55-gallon drums of heating oil in a secure location represents a massive reserve of thermal energy, enough to last through the harshest winter. The supply chain for these fuels is also more robust and diverse than that of propane or specialty fuels. Diesel is available everywhere. While it may become scarce in a crisis, its initial availability is far greater, giving the prepared individual a window to stock up. Modern oil heaters are also a world away from their predecessors. Many include safety features like tip-over switches and adjustable heat outputs, giving you a degree of control and safety that was previously unavailable. Overlooking this category because of outdated perceptions is a lazy and potentially fatal mistake. Bonus point 11. The natural furnace. Biofuel and biomass gasifiers. Let's push beyond the obvious. Wood, propane, kerosene. These are the standard answers. The advanced prepper looks for force multipliers, systems that create fuel from resources others see as trash. This is the domain of biomass gasification. It sounds complex, but the principle is simple. A gasifier is a device that uses a low-oxygen, high-temperature process to convert organic material, biomass, into a flammable gas, primarily carbon monoxide and hydrogen. This wood gas can then be piped directly into a burner to generate heat. Essentially, you are turning yard waste into a clean-burning fuel source on demand. This isn't just a heater, it is a micro-refinery for thermal energy. The strategic advantage here is almost impossible to overstate. A gasifier dramatically expands your definition of fuel. You are no longer limited to perfectly split and seasoned firewood. Suddenly, your fuel sources include twigs, pine cones, wood chips, sawdust, nutshells, dried leaves, and even certain types of agricultural waste. In a long-term grid-down scenario, where every easily accessible piece of firewood has been scavenged and burned, the person with a gasifier will still have a nearly unlimited supply of fuel. They can literally rake their yard and heat their home. This technology transforms waste management into energy production. It provides a level of self-sufficiency that is simply unattainable with conventional heating methods. This is not a plug-and-play solution. Building or acquiring a biomass gasifier requires a degree of technical skill and a commitment to learning the system. These are not appliances you buy at a big-box store. They are often fabricated in small workshops or built by dedicated DIY enthusiasts. However, the knowledge is readily available for those willing to look. For the homesteader or someone with a secure rural retreat, investing the time to master this technology is a game changer. It removes your dependency on stockpiled fuel, which, no matter how large, is finite. A gasifier offers the potential for indefinite heating as long as you have access to organic biomass. In a world where supply chains can break overnight, the ability to create your own fuel from the ground beneath your feet is the ultimate insurance policy. Dismissing this as too complicated is a short-sighted excuse that ignores the brutal reality of resource scarcity in a true collapse. Bonus point 12. The underground advantage. Geothermal and earth-sheltered heating. The ultimate survival strategy is to work with nature, not against it. While everyone else is burning finite resources to fight the cold, you can tap into a source of heat that never runs out, the Earth itself. Just a few feet below the surface, the ground maintains a remarkably stable temperature, typically between 50 to 60 Fahrenheit, regardless of the season. Geothermal heating and earth-sheltered living are two ways to harness this constant, free source of thermal energy. This is not about active geothermal heat pumps that require electricity. This is about passive design that leverages the planet's thermal mass. An earth-sheltered home is one that is built partially or fully underground. By using the surrounding earth as a massive insulating blanket, the structure is protected from extreme temperature swings. In winter, the 55 Fahrenheit ground temperature constantly warms the structure, drastically reducing or even eliminating the need for supplemental heating. In summer, it keeps it cool. This is a principle that has been used for millennia, from ancient cliff dwellings to sod houses on the prairie. It is the most passive, resilient, and low-effort heating and cooling system in existence. For anyone planning a bug-out location or a truly self-sufficient homestead, designing it with earth-sheltered principles is the single most effective step you can take to ensure long-term survival. For those with existing structures, a simplified version of this can be achieved through a climate battery or earth tube system. This involves running pipes deep underground. Air drawn through these tubes is naturally preheated by the earth in winter before it enters your home. An intake temperature of 10 Fahrenheit can be raised to 50 Fahrenheit with zero fuel cost just by passing through the earth. This preheated air then requires far less energy to bring to a comfortable living temperature. This drastically reduces the load on your wood stove or other heater, stretching your fuel supply exponentially. It is an investment in infrastructure that pays permanent dividends in energy savings. While your neighbors are burning through their woodpile in a week, your earth tube-assisted home will be using a fraction of the fuel to achieve the same level of comfort. This is a thinking person's solution. It requires planning and foresight, but it provides a level of security and efficiency that is simply unmatched by any fuel-dependent method.